Okay, so thank you everyone for being here today. We appreciate you coming. It looks like we have a good sized audience, about 40 people, and some more people coming in all the time. We are recording this so we can have access to this after the fact. If you'd like to come back and look at any of these any of the slides again, or just watch the recording again, we always put the recording of our workshops into our YouTube channel, and they're usually available within a day or two at most. So by tomorrow, you should be able to see the recording in our YouTube channel. And again, thank you all for being here. We have just a great guest speaker today. I feel so fortunate that he's willing and able to help all of us, and with his just years and years of experience working with the city of San Diego, and now he's a mentor at the Rec Innovation Lab, and he brings with him so much in-depth knowledge about the procedures, the nuts and bolts and logistics of actually starting a business. Some of the things that people just don't think about, and we've been having a lot of conversations recently, and I just think you're all going to benefit so much from his in-depth knowledge and experience, and we're just so lucky to have him. So with that, I will pass over the floor to our presenter today, Mr. Tracy Reed, who will talk to you about some of the things you need to know about starting a business in San Diego.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is kind of interesting not seeing anybody, but my name is Tracy Reed. I was a business development officer with the city of San Diego for the last 6 or 7 years in the economic development department. I was part of a team that responded to public inquiries regarding how to start a business, and a predecessor that had worked on this started putting together what we call the 10 key steps to starting a business in San Diego. This is more specific within the city of San Diego. Some of this carries over to other cities, but I can tell you all the cities within the county of San Diego require a business to do something, registration or other things. But small businesses are the backbone of the economy. I think with the COVID-19 going on, it's even more evident about that. It's also they make a very important role with the health of the region. And San Diego kind of defines small businesses as any business with less than 12 employees. As of September 1st, the city of San Diego had 98,000 businesses registered within the city of San Diego as small businesses. 93% of that was small businesses. And 37% of that is what we call home occupation businesses, people working from their home, anywhere from consulting to doing farmers markets and things like that, or yoga instructor. The realm is very broad, from a retired judge doing work from home to a dog walker having clients all over the county of San Diego. We kind of broke it into this sphere here where it's all leading to, for the city of San Diego, a business tax certificate. The city of San Diego calls it a business tax certificate, not a business license. That goes back to the forefathers of San Diego back in the 1930s. I asked why it was called that, and it was that they didn't want to say they were licensing a business. I've made suggestions over time that we drop the word tax, just call it a business certificate, because sometimes people see the word tax and think they're going to be audited. That is not the case. And it's a very inexpensive document within the city of San Diego. And actually the homepage for the city of San Diego's homepage is set up to do it, and it's through the treasurer's office. You know, when you're starting a business, you do basic research, basic information. Not as popular as it used to be would be a library, public library. Now there's websites, there's portals that you can use, and there's nonprofit organizations that are around that can help you with basic information. Some of those two that I've worked with quite a bit is Axion, San Diego, and the Small Business Development Centers, that there's several within the San Diego County. They have different programs and workshops to help to put together a business plan. And that leads me right into this one, business plan. You need to create a business plan. It's a roadmap. Studies have shown of why business fail. They fail because they don't have a roadmap. A lot of banks and financial institutions If you're trying to get money for your business, they're going to want to see that you put together a business plan. The assistance is like I talked about, Axion, small business development centers. I know Axion twice a year has a multiple week business planning class for businesses. I've helped attend those. And what's interesting, about half the people that attend those business planning classes that they have already been in business for several years. The first thing that comes up typically is business names. The city has nothing to do or any regulations regarding a business name. That is typically handled by the county, and that's where you register your business as a fictitious business name. It's a two-step process. What I know about it is, like I said, it's 2 steps. A lot of businesses that apply don't finish the second step. It's the first part is filling out the paperwork and submitting it with the county. The second one is having it published in a recognized journal or publication that the county refers to. And then after it's been published for 4 weeks in a row, you get a certificate that it's been published, and you need to send that back to the county. A lot of businesses don't do that and don't follow and complete the process. It protects your name a little bit because you've got a time when you started using that business name, and it tries to prevent duplications within the county. I always recommend that people find out if they can use the business name before they start doing their business tax certificate, so they don't have to go back and change it that wasn't available. If the business name is using your surname, like mine, Reed Roofing, that wouldn't need to be registered. But if I was going to call it La Mesa Roofing, that would be. Like I said, it doesn't really protect your name, the name too much. You can talk to people and lawyers that know more about that. Next one is the legal structure. The legal structure of the business is how you how you basically secure your finances and liability. There's all types of ways different types of legal structures you can choose. There's different portals that give you information, but most of them say you need to contact an accountant or an attorney to really know that. Afterwards, there's a brochure that goes with this presentation that'll be available to everybody, and it goes into all the different things on the legal structures of types. The only thing I can say on the legal structure is that LLC with California, I believe, is $600 a year. I've heard a lot of people complain about that cost, and I don't know why a lot of businesses register in Delaware. Maybe it's cheaper or simpler, I'm not sure. But that's how it kind of goes with the legal structure. Then, there we go. Business activities. There's a national certification system that's like a 5 or 6 digit code that's brought up sometimes when you're applying for a business. You just have to put it into a general range of the type. I know within the city of San Diego, the treasurer's office people look to see if they could fine tune what that classification is after they filled out the application. You need to determine the startup requirements. And it's really difference between a home-based businesses and bricks and mortar, as I call it. If it's a bricks and mortar, you really need to find out where the address is and does the land use and zoning allow that use. Again, we talk about the home occupation. There's actually information bulletins that the city has that gives you the rules and regulations of home occupation. The simplest there is to say you can't be a nuisance to your neighbors. And we're pretty proactive with those rules, that they've opened up quite a bit, that you can now actually have some customers come to your home and you can have somebody work with you outside your business, outside, work with you inside your home. All the 18, everyone within the county, other than the county, require a business license or an equivalent. And part of that process is, what type of business activity. That leads me into site zoning and permits. This is what I'm more familiar with, is the zoning and siting of businesses. That's where the description type help. Business types are changing so quickly, it's hard for the code to stay up with them. One of the examples I can give you is craft breweries. Early on, the people that in my department and working with zoning and planning put down that craft breweries are a manufacturing type business. And that was their main type of business. That was their primary business. And that's why a lot of the original ones went into industrial areas because they were allowed to and permitted by right. And they were allowed to have a tasting room as an accessory to their business of manufacturing up to a certain ratio of the business of area. Over time, that was expanded to a certain ratio of the building, but before that time, it was restricted to, I think, 2,000 or 3,000 square feet, no matter what size the business was. You need to always know if the zoning and the code regulations would allow that type of business. If when you're doing your proposed business and what those requirements are, you'll sometimes hear of a conditional use permit or a neighborhood use permit. That means it's not allowed by right, that there's certain other things you need to do to be able to come in there. An example of some of the issues that affected craft breweries years ago was city of Chula Vista required every craft brewery, no matter where they were, to get a conditional use permit. That's a lot of time and money. And so they weren't seeing very many craft breweries trying to come in within Chula Vista several years ago. Then you have special licensing and permits. City of San Diego has quite a few police regulated businesses. The most recent one that was added was smoke shops. That became a new police regulated business. Anything to do with food comes under environmental health with county. Anytime you're selling things by weights and measures, that's also the county. There's a lot of business types that come under the state, under consumer affairs. Recently, the Board of Equalization was renamed as Department of Tax and Fee Administration. If you're selling anything online, anything, you need to get a seller's permit from the state, the sales tax issue, and then anything to do with alcohol brings in the ABC under the state. And all those things take time. I can tell you, anyone that's come to me with a business plan and said, I plan to open within 3 to 4 months, it's always been at least double that time of trying to get all these permits and approvals done. Then you get into tax information. Tax information, unsecured property, sales tax we already talked about, miscellaneous tax. You've got to go to the experts, which is the state, or attorneys or accountants that specialize in taxes. Then you end up with federal income tax. There's the whole federal employer identification number, which I kind of call a business social security number. Sometimes people that do business planning recommend that you get one of those, even if it's just yourself, just to have different accounting, mechanisms to monitor. And I jumped into this employer responsibilities. In the past, it was a little simpler that you only had state and county regulations. Now, the city of San Diego has employee rules that sometimes surpass what the state is from time to time regarding minimum wage, time off, their federal employee identification number, and then making sure you have workers' compensation insurance. I can tell you the state reviews the business tax certificate lists of the city of San Diego on a certain basis and want to know why somebody's got a business and they don't have a seller's permit or don't have workers' compensation when they have employees. So that information is exchanged, and I've heard of people getting in trouble one way or the other regarding having registered their business correctly. That leads us, I get to number 10, business license or equivalent. What's a little mixing is in the unincorporated areas of the county, example Ramona, Julian, Spring Valley, those are all under the county. The county does not require anything for a business. They dropped that years ago, but all of the 18 cities within the incorporated cities do require something, and you need to check to see what that is and how to go about it. They all use different terms. I think a couple cities do use business tax certificate. Some call it business registration. In the city of San Diego, if you do business for more than 6 calendar days in a year, and that includes advertising or listing your business on the internet, those days count, you need to get a business tax certificate. We always get calls around the Girl Scout cookie time. Does my daughter need to get this? She's gonna be selling cookies for a couple weeks. A lot of parents have their children go through it just to add to the experience of doing it. I've never heard of any problems with that, but like I said, it's pretty interesting that some parents have their children go through that process just to learn that basic as part of the process. What's a little bit different is you've got business taxes and assessments. The business tax certificate is an annual fee. That became an issue recently regarding COVID-19 and city's small business relief fund. I've spoke to a lot of businesses that thought it was a one-time fee and they didn't have to pay it every year, and it expired, several years ago. As part of that fee, there's also an annual one from the state for ADA training and compliance, which is $4. And I think in 2024, it goes back to $1. Under the county, that's added into building permits because they don't have any kind of a business registration. On the city of San Diego's business tax certificates, after 12 employees, it's based on number of employees after 12 of I think $125 plus per employee. What's a little confusing for people is the city of San Diego has these special districts called business improvement districts. There's 18 of those within the city of San Diego. Some that you're familiar with are Gaslamp, La Jolla, Hillcrest, North Park, East Village. East Village is the most recent one, and all of them have a special assessment tied to the type of business. At some point, the businesses within that business district voted to assess themselves a certain amount per business type to have an organization, nonprofit organization, work with them and organize the business area, kind of like how a mall works, having events, putting up banners, putting up lights, marketing. Most of those that I just spoke of, are some of our more successful, small business areas, and they were there to be the voice of small businesses during the whole COVID-19, lockdown and stuff. They were always in contact with the city's departments and political officials. I wanted to get into the home regulations. Basically, it's conducting a business at home. It's considered an accessory use to your residential use. It's allowed in all residential zones, but this one RM 512. As far as I've never come across that zone within the city of San Diego, but it's the exception. If you can't follow the basic rules for home occupation, then you would need to get a neighborhood use permit. That's a certain fee now. It used to be a deposit, but it takes time. There's an information bulletin that the city has. It's about 4 to 5 pages called Home Occupation, which tells you what the rules are. And I always recommend people find that document, put it in their file, and have it ready to know what they can and can't do from home on their business. That kind of concludes my presentation. I went kind of fast. I'm welcome to answer any questions, and I'll turn it back to Tanya.
That was just, thank you. And that was just wonderful. Thank you so much, Tracy. That's jam-packed full of information in there. And these are a lot of, the kind of questions that come up, the nuts and bolts, the specificities of opening a business. And I have to say that, a lot of the things that you talked about, for example, an EIN, we also recommend that every business gets an EIN so that they can keep their personal finances separate from their business. And you're hearing, I'm sure all of the people in this call are hearing all of these things and they're thinking, oh my goodness, this is going to be just so complicated and so expensive. And let me tell you this, it's not as expensive as it sounds. It's not as complicated as it sounds. There are people out here to help you. I am going to be sharing some of the documents that Tracy shared with me to all of you, so that you can, just kind of follow through step by step. An EIN, for example, there's no cost associated with that. The cost of, we don't call it a business license, but the certificate of business. What's the cost for the city of San Diego again?
If it's less than 12 employees, it's $38 a year.
$38 a year. I mean, that's not that expensive. You have the ADA compliance is $4. Now it's $1. I mean, these are not big costs associated with them. So don't be.
Yeah, it was $1, and it's $4 for 5 years, and I think it goes away in 2024 back to $1.
Look at that. I mean, that's so little. These are the kind of things you can afford this, and you can afford to be in compliance. It's better to do this right from the beginning. So I'm not going to talk. I'm going to let you guys answer or ask.
And on the business tax certificate with the city's relief plan, that was the golden ticket to get in.
Yes. Tell them that story. This really bothered me about the relief plan. So many businesses. I'll let you tell this, but tell us what happened with that.
I would say 10 to 20% of the businesses had let their business tax certificate lapse. They thought they did not know it was an annual one. They had the document, but it was a couple years old. Yep. They had just not kept it up.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much the first qualification to be able to apply.
For for the relief funds.
I mean, the city ended up with over 10,000 applications, actually 8,000 within the first 48 hours. So over 10% of the businesses in San Diego had applied for relief within 48 hours.
Crazy. And then what percentage of them didn't qualify just because they didn't have that one little $38 certificate?
They weren't even allowed to apply. They weren't even part of the 10,000 or so that came in, because that was the first thing that stopped them, to get through the process.
Yeah, which is such a shame. That's all of those funds out there. I mean,
I have a question.
Yes.
So can you introduce yourself when you have questions from the audience? Yeah.
Do you want me to leave this up, or do you want me to stop sharing?
Well, you can. It's fine. You can leave it up, or you can. Actually, yeah. Let's stop sharing, and that way we'll put it on the. We'll go ahead and put it on the gallery view so we can all see each other. And you're welcome now to all turn on your cameras if you'd like. You can turn on the microphones if you have questions. And then who is trying to ask a question here?
It was me, Kima, Professor.
Hi, Kima. Hi, Kima. What was the question that you had?
So, Tracy mentioned the $600 fee for LLC.
So,
and my question was, he also mentioned about filing your business somewhere else.
So, Kima, I can address this. So there's two ways that I typically recommend, or that lawyers will typically recommend that new businesses file. It's either a Delaware C Corp or a California LLC, and that has to do with whether or not you're planning on growing the business. If you want to get outside funds, if you want angel investors, you're going to want a Delaware LLC, and that has to do with whether or not you pay taxes. The reason we do this in Delaware is because there's not that double taxation. It's the cheapest and best place for you to get to file. And the filing fee for that is $8.95. The filing fee for the California LLC is $6.95. And we have legal here at the rec to help you with all of this. The only thing you have to pay for is the filing fee. They pay the $845 per hour lawyer's fees, and so I think I was telling the team we have 50 hours set aside right now of free legal advice for you at $845 an hour. None of that you pay. You just pay that filing fee when you're ready for that.
Okay. So if I'm gonna file, I should file one of those. I shouldn't file some other state where it's cheaper or something.
It won't be cheaper in any other state. That's a federal fee.
Yeah, also too is the fictitious business name with the county.
Mm-hmm.
So that's typically, I think, in the $80 range. It's 40 and 40 or something. So that's where it kind of mixes up the filing. that
Yeah.
you want to do the fictitious business name with the county, it's somewhere in the 40 and $80 range after you get the two parts together.
And then also, she's going to want to also file for her business certificate as well at that time too. Oh, you're cutting out there, Tracy. I'm sorry, I can't hear you for some reason. You're muted. So let's.
Professor.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead, Tracy. What were you saying?
I mean, you would file it wherever you live, wherever you're doing your business. What I've heard people say is when somebody's making the payment, where's that payment going to and what address?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Especially when you have mobile businesses. There isn't
Exactly.
such thing as a county-wide, business license.
Mm-hmm.
But some have said it's where you're using your accounting and where they're making the payment to.
The business address, right? Yeah. And you had one other question, Kima? Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Okay, and go ahead.
So then all of
You're cutting out there, Kima.
all of the other things we talked about, all of
Kima, you're cutting out. So go ahead, and I'm just going to have you go ahead and put the question in the
where
chat.
I found my LLC, all those apply, correct?
So we can't. We're having a hard time hearing you, Kima. So why don't you go ahead and put the question in the chat, and I'll read it, and then I'll ask it to Tracy. So you were cutting out.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. So go ahead and put your question in the chat, and we'll get that question answered from you.
I'll try it.
Yeah. Thanks. I know you just keep cutting out there. Does anybody else have any questions for Tracy?
I saw somebody named Jeremy or something.
Jeremy, did you have a question?
Sorry, nothing for me at the moment.
Okay. Was it Ben had a question? Benjamin, do you have a question? You're on mute, by the way.
Yep. Hi there. Thanks for that, Tracy. That was awesome. So we are a Delaware corporation, C Corp, and we are also filed our business tax certificate in California. But we are working completely remotely and servicing completely remotely. How does that kind of like factor into paying the license here or certificate here in San Diego, and also like with paying our employees? Right now we're paying them through the SDSU HR, but if we're paying employees who are working remotely, like, do we have to do additional tax compliance stuff there?
If you're within the city of San Diego, there's a whole section within the treasurer's office that handles the employee payroll, stuff like this. I'm sorry, I've got all kinds of questions, but I've never had that one come up that you've got remote employees, is what I'm understanding. And how do you pay them? What wages, or what's the minimum wage, or what benefits, and how does that work out? I actually, like I said, there is a section within the treasurer's office that would go to, that you could call. I'm sorry, I don't have it at my fingertips, but there is a section within the treasurer's office that just handle the required business benefits regarding employees within the city of San Diego. And it's very detailed when the states sometimes surpasses the cities, because there's a whole scale of when they come in. And I think it's kind of tied to ours is the fiscal year, theirs is the calendar year, back and forth. So yeah, if you just looked up the city treasurer's office, they have a section that's just handling, wages.
I was going to say,
benefits.
I can forward that document to also Benjamin, so that you can take a look at that. There's a lot of complexities and ambiguities, but it should get you at least started on what the right answer is, right? So I'll forward that document. I actually have also here, there's a few questions in the chat that I want to ask to Tracy, but we also have with us here Sudarshan Shanak from the SBDC, who's on the call. And I wanted to see if maybe he had anything to add as well, coming from that perspective.
Sure, thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
Tanya. Yes, I'm here, and good to be able to chat with so many of you. I just wanted to clarify one comment about where you form your corporation. So just be careful if you, for example, form your corporation in the state of Delaware or Nevada, but you're actually conducting your business in the state of California, then you have to file for articles of incorporation also in the state of California as a foreign corporation to the state of California. So be careful if you form, unless you're going to be doing a lot of work which requires Delaware or Nevada incorporation, you might end up having to spend twice as much money or whatever is the registration fee for each state, because whatever work you're doing, and if you're doing it in California, you have to register within the state of California.
Thank you so much, Sudarshan. And this is why it's so important that you meet with a lawyer, right? To give you the advice. Don't you agree, Sudarshan?
Absolutely. When it comes to that, it's always good to be able to talk to an attorney, but there are resources online that you can look at. However, I would caution people from going onto all these online organizations that might help you form your entity, because you'll be surprised how it seems like it's inexpensive in the beginning, but by the time you end up finishing everything, it costs you quite a bit, because step by step things get added.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for adding that.
I see a question there about business citywide seller's
I was
license.
just going to ask that, Tracy. Yeah, could you
No,
address that?
as far as I know, you can just go online and get it from what used to be the Board of Equalization, which is now the State Board of Taxes and Fees. And as far as I know, that's also not a cost. So you know, but it's very important to have that, because like I said, they go through and check documents. And I remember getting calls from investigators saying, can you tell me how long this business has been in San Diego? Because, you know, of course it's selling and they don't have a state seller's permit. Within the city of San Diego, if you've been in business and haven't had stuff, they can only go back for fees for 3 years.
Okay.
And the only ones we really find are the ones that are in a business improvement district. And all of a sudden they get a fee of like $1,000 because they didn't pay the 300 assessment for those 3 years.
Absolutely. Thank you. So do we have other questions in the, I see any other questions in the?
I see, yeah, the one on the steps, what I typically say is they may not apply to all of them right now, but it's very good to kind of keep them in mind for as you grow or expand. I'm still in the print it mode. And I always say, you know, print it out and use it as a checkoff list. Also, too, the handout has got a lot of links in it. And it's good to kind of have it as a bookmark, because you don't want to have to try to type in those links.
And can you show, do you have that handout there?
I'll try to bring it up, yeah.
You can bring it up. And then do we have other questions from the audience? I saw maybe Brennan might have had a question. Nope. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put it on mute. Did anybody else have a question that they wanted to ask?
Professor, this is Tarlise Jones.
Hi, Tarlise.
Hi. So I'm still a little confused as far as when you need to file the different, like I know in the long run, I'm probably going to end up being an LLC business, but right now I'm still developing a business plan, still in the very, very beginning steps. How do you know when to file for these different like permits or registrations? Like obviously I don't want to pay $895 a year if I'm not taking in any clientele or actually quote unquote doing business, but still in the building business phase. So how do you
Definitely
know
not
when?
in the planning stages.
Okay.
Now, Tracy, could you address maybe address that a little bit more, when they actually are required to file for not the LLC, but the other business licenses through this?
I mean, you actually, I think, I don't want to misquote, but I think it's within 14 days of starting your business is the rules for the city of San Diego, that you would need to file it within that. I don't have the FAQ of the application, but I think it's within 12 to 14 days of starting your business within the city of San Diego that you should get your business tax certificate. Also, too, what I forgot is there's the city's website is San Diego, all one word, .gov. That opening page of that website is actually set up almost like TurboTax of step 1, 2, and 3 to get your business tax certificate. We actually got them to use the word business license on that page. Also, too, there's a website called business.sandiego.gov, which is tied to a portal called Open Counter. which anybody can use to find out what the zoning is on a piece of property. Previously, it would take you days to even find that out, and you'd have to come downtown. Now with Open Counter, you can actually send inquiries to the Economic Development Department or Building Department and get answers. That Open Counter is pretty impressive. 95% of the time you'll get the right answer. The one that's a little shaky sometimes is downtown because it's a 3-dimension zone where it's looking at it on the plane. I'm trying to get that handout, so.
Yeah. So I have here, let me share. I have a screen. This might be it. Let me see on my.
I sent it to you just a while ago.
Is that it? I have a.
Yeah.
That one? Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
So can you all see that? Close out my other things open right there. See that form? I'm going to share this sheet with all of you. It's great. It has pretty much what we covered today, the key steps to starting a business, and then all of those links to the different.
I think right there under number 1, you'll see the business.sandiego.gov Open Counter. That's actually a national program that was developed about 4 years ago by the economic director of Santa Cruz. And I can tell you cities all the way to Florida are using that for multiple things, but it's definitely a good portal for small businesses, especially if you're going bricks and mortar.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will share this with all of you. I will, I'll put this in your, I'll put it in the class so you'll be able to access it afterwards, along with the video recording. So yeah, great. So other questions from the audience? So, so somebody was asking a question for me about accessing legal assistance through the rec. We have a couple of different things that you can do. We have meetings with the SBDC, and we'll talk about that here very soon. But then to actually meet with either New Media Rights and the Cal Western School of Law, you'll be setting up appointments to do that, and I can share with you the. I'll share with you the email to do that. And then the USD Law Clinic will also have a little workshop on that here shortly, and then share that with you. So other questions for Tracy or for me or? Yep. So, and back, people are asking about how they'll actually have access to these. I tell you what, if you fill out the survey, anyone who fills out the survey, I'm going to go ahead and put this in there. What's that?
I just did, but
okay, great.
I was trying to see, where did you say you were going to put the?
So anyone who fills out the survey, I will send you a copy of the forms with all the links, and then that way you'll have them right there in your email. And then for everybody else, I'll be putting it in the classroom as well.
Awesome.
But fill out that form, and I'll make sure to get it right to you. We'll send you, that'll be your reward for filling the feedback, right? We thank you for taking the time to do that. We'll respond with that.
Bless your heart.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes,
thank both of you.
Oh, of course. Any other questions? Any other questions for Tracy while we have him here?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Brennan. Hi, Tracy. Thanks for presenting. I just wanted to just get a clarification. I feel like I've heard multiple different wordings of certificates and a little confused about specifically each thing we need. So I think there's an LLC, there's a registering the business in San Diego, and then a tax certificate and a seller permit.
Yeah, it depends on what type of business you're having, but yeah, roughly those are 4 things you need. How you want to protect your business legally, that's the LLC. What it really comes down to, the city has a requirement of having the business tax certificate, or any city within the county you need to be registered with. Most businesses want to protect their name at least, and that's the fictitious business name with the county. So we highly recommend that. And then, yes, if you're selling something, you need a seller's permit, but like if you're providing a service, that doesn't come under a seller's permit. And then the LLC is just the top of the chain for protecting your company and liability. And then what comes on to that is, do you need a federal employee tax identification number?
Again,
that's typically, if you have employees, but some people recommend you get one anyways, just to have a number on a separate bank account and getting payments with a different number than your social security number.
Yeah, absolutely. I highly recommend that everyone get that EIN also.
And then, like I said, the seller's permit and the EIN is free. So those are 2 out of the 5 that don't have any cost.
And then also the workers' comp insurance, they're going to need that for sure, right? And any other insurance that they might need. There are many things, Brendan. It's not a clear path, and it's not the same for everyone. Isn't that true, Tracy?
Yeah. Like I said, it's a start. Those are items to think about as you're going through your business. I mean, if I'm a dog walker, I probably need insurance, but maybe don't need to be an LLC.
Yeah, you probably be all right. Or if you don't have any.
I had some woman call me that had customers in 5 cities as a dog walker. And she's like, well, do I have to get a business license in all 5? And all I could say was, 1, talk to an attorney, but where are the payments going and what are you using for the address of your bank accounts? But if you do half your work in San Diego and half in Carlsbad, you may want to have one also from Carlsbad. Because like if you were outside the city of San Diego and you wanted to bid on a job or something with the city would require you to get one from the city of San Diego. One of the things that adds to that is if you wanted to sell a Kobe swap meet at the sports arena, they actually require everybody, no matter where they're from, get a city of San Diego tax certificate.
Right. 1,
it protects them because they're client within the swap meet. 2, the swap meet property is also city property. So even if you're from Poway and you're going to sell something, that is part of your documentation to get a space from Kobe swap meet.
Yep. Yeah, there's going to be certain times where you think that it might not be required, and then lo and behold, it is. Right. And then I see a question here from Josh, who's asking about, a seller's permit is a very specific thing. That's when you're selling an actual product, so that they can get the sales tax, right? So that we can set it up for the sales tax. So he's asking, what do you do if you're not selling a product? Is there a specific permit for a service business?
I mean, you just don't need the seller's permit.
Yeah, you just don't need it. Yeah.
And then can I actually ask a follow-up question on that?
Yeah.
So we're thinking also because we're working with fruit tree owners. So if we were to take these people's fruit and make a product out of it, like juice, and back to them, would that be under a seller's permit, or would we still not need that?
That's a good question. I don't know, because to me, you're under contract to make it, and they're paying you.
Yeah.
I hate to say it's another one of those lawyer things of how do you split it?
Yeah.
If you're making the product, for them, if money's exchanged somehow, and then it comes down to, is there sales tax or not sales tax?
Exactly.
I think that's where it would go. And they've got a pretty good, if you can get a hold of them, they're pretty good responsive. Like I said, it used to be Board of Equalization, now it's tax fees. I think their office is in UTC somewhere. We have it on the brochure.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
I was going to say too, it depends, like Tracy said, on whether or not you're selling it just back to them or to other people. If you're selling it to somebody other than those initial owners that you got it from, that would be, that could change things, right? That could change.
And I always say too, is if there's an organization that works on that, like I said, who does the seller's permit, that's the best place to get the answer,
And where would they go? Where do they go to get the seller's permit?
Well, it's online, but there's an office, I think, in San Diego at UTC. Yeah. I've actually seen it. There's an office up in Carmel Mountain Ranch.
Okay.
It's the state's sales and fees. It used to be, everybody, I think, generically knew it as Board of Equalization. That's what it used to be.
State Board of Equalization, yeah.
But yeah, I've seen it up there by the Costco up in Carmel Mountain Ranch.
Okay. I know.
But I think we have the listing in the brochure.
Yeah. It's in the brochure. It's in the brochure for sure. But I know which one you're talking about now. Yeah. Okay. Other questions from the audience? Does anybody else have any other questions?
Yes, Tracy. This is John.
Yeah.
So I know you were talking about prior to starting your business, 14 days get your certificate, your business certificate. Now.
Not prior to within that start date.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So within 14 days. Now, let's say for me, if I'm kind of have to do like a little bit of demo work to get, or let me rephrase the question. When does that actually start? When you're actually going to sell a service?
I don't know. You know, it's like $38. You know, you paid it a year early. 38's a pretty good, cheap insurance policy.
Okay.
You know, and even if you said, oh, I started 3 months ago, they would just backdate it. And I do know through the Business Relief Fund that people were actually able to backdate payments. I'm looking at something that says this year, but they're saying that they paid it last year. So they did things that I didn't even know they were allowed to do. They were able to back pay, and they were current when they weren't current the day before.
Oh, that's good. That's nice to
Okay,
hear.
so better safe than sorry is get it now, even though we don't plan to launch for another 6 months.
Right.
Okay.
$40, right? Less than $40. So other questions from the audience?
Not seeing anything.
Isaac, did you have a question? You're muted. Unfortunately, I can't hear you very well. Or you're not muted, but we just can't hear you.
We're not hearing you, Isaac.
Yeah, we're not hearing you. So if you want, I can put it in the chat, Isaac. I can ask him too. He's having mic trouble. Yeah, go ahead and just put it in the chat, and I'll ask for you, Isaac. Anybody?
Hi, I was just gonna put one more plug in for the feedback form. If you had already filled it out, and I mentioned, if you want the form Tanya was mentioning, don't fill it out anonymously. Make sure you put your name and then your email address if you can in there. But if you already did, I'm gonna throw my email address here too. If you have any troubles or anything like that, just feel free to reach out and email me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also available on the city's website. If you go to sandiego.gov, all one word, God, I've said that for 10,000 years. www.sandiego, all one word, .gov, and basically put in 10 key steps. The PDF will pop right up there. And like I said, there's even a Spanish version. So I don't think they've updated it since I left, but we typically update it every 6 to 9 months.
Okay.
Thanks, Tanya.
Yes, of course. So, and Isaac's question was this: what are some of the biggest differences in terms of licensing for virtual businesses? A lot of these students, you know this, Tracy, you're a mentor here. A lot of them are starting these tech businesses. They're starting businesses that they don't have a physical brick and mortar.
Well, to me, if they're working out of they're a home-based business, you know, they're a home occupation. You would want to start off, documenting that, with the $38. It's home occupation. I've talked to people that are doing, apps and stuff from home. I know one, I can say I made a presentation to a bunch of lawyers. That was the interesting presentation once. And actually it was probably the safest one I've ever had. But one of them called me afterwards, and she was going to go back into law. And then she decided to help her husband with some IT and apps. And she was saying what she learned from this applied to that, but she wasn't thinking of that when she, went to the workshop. Yeah. But I mean, it just had a business tax certificate under home occupation.
Yeah, that's a good point. So all of those home occupation forms that, or the home occupation requirements.
Yeah, and like I said, on the city's website, if you put in information bulletin 540, you'll get it. It's a 4 or 5 page document. And like I said, I always want to have the rules in front of me, and yep. you have them right there.
Okay, I'll send that out too. So, any other questions? Looks like we're out of time.
Nice seeing Isaac. I was talking to him, mentoring him. So.
Oh, good. Okay, that's awesome. So, any other quick questions? I know we're out of time, but I just want to make sure that there's nothing just burning desire by anyone. Okay, so I see just a quick question we had from Venkat, who asked about the rules with COVID.
If you're working for a business out of your home, you're working under them. Yes. I know a lot of people that always, before even worked remotely, they're just an employee working for that company out of their home. So they're
not required to file another separate business because they're working for that other company.
Yeah.
So does that make sense? Does that make sense, Venkat? That you're
working from home, but you're working for another employer. it's not a separate, business entity.
Yeah, so I see a couple of people who are a little confused. So well, the question was, what are the rules now with COVID? Should all the employees now file home occupation? And the answer is no. You're still working for that existing company. You're just working from home. You're not starting a separate business at home.
Right.
Does that make sense, everyone? Yeah, okay. I see now people seem to, yeah, okay. Cool, great. Any other burning questions before we thank Tracy and get on our way? All right. Well, thank you all again for being here. Wonderful presentation, Tracy. This has been one of, I think, the most, most jam-packed with those specific information that's often hard for people to locate. And it's nice to know that it's all in one place and that they can get access to that by going just through the city of San Diego, through that website. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Tracy. And we'll see you at the next workshop. Take care, everyone.
Bye.